Hello students, this is Dr. Shabana Begum, Associate Professor in the Department of Zoology, Maharanis Science College for Women, Bangalore, presenting a talk on the last subtopic of Unit 1.3, that is the reproductive system and life cycle of Palaeomon, pertaining to second semester zoology under the paper entitled Non-Chordata Part 2. Students, in my previous session, I have already given you the gist of concept of serial homology. Presuming that you have followed the same, let me elaborate on the reproductive system in Palaeomon and its development. And before starting the lecture on the topic, let me give you a brief introduction about reproduction and reproductive system in general, which I am sure you have already studied in your lower classes. Fine. So now about reproduction. Reproduction is a biological process by which new individual organisms or offspring are produced from the parent or parents. It's a fundamental feature of all known life. Each individual organism exists as the result of reproduction. And there are two forms of reproduction, asexual and sexual. In case of asexual reproduction, an organism can reproduce without the involvement of another organism. It is not limited to single-celled organisms. By asexual reproduction, an organism creates a genetically similar or identical copy of itself, while the sexual reproduction typically requires the sexual interaction of two specialized organisms or gametes which contain half the number of chromosomes of normal cells and are created by meiosis, with typically a male fertilizing a female of same species to create a fertilized zygote. Fine. So this produces offspring organisms whose genetic characteristics are derived from those of the two parental organisms. So all these you have studied in your lower classes, right? So what about reproductive system? So the reproductive system of an organism, also known as the genital system, is the biological system made up of all the anatomical organs involved in sexual reproduction. The system of organs and parts which function in reproduction, consisting in the male especially of the testis, penis, seminal vesicles, prostate glands, and the urethra, plus even in case of female especially of the ovaries, fallopian tubes, uterus, vagina and vulva. Fine. So now the content of today's lecture being the male reproductive system in case of Palaeomon, female reproductive system in Palaeomon and its development, and the learning objective of this topic being the students at the end of this lesson would be able to understand and learn the reproductive system and development of Palaeomon species. So this picture I'm sure you are familiar with because I have displayed it when I explained to you about the morphological structure of Palaeomon and also the structure and functions of appendages in Palaeomon. Hope you remember its divisions, etc. So coming back to Palaeomon reproductive system, as I have already told you, Palaeomon is an Indian freshwater prawn. It is unisexual and you can say it is dioecious and shows sexual dimorphism. What is sexual dimorphism? So in this, The male and the female animal shows many morphological differences, by means of which you can say that this particular individual is male and the other one will be the female. Fine. So this table will give you some of the differences between the male and the female Palaeomon, which goes like this. In case of male and female, you can just in the form of serial numbers, you can just divide it, and some points you can mention. For male, as the second pair of chelate legs are longer and stronger, while in case of female, the second pair of chelate legs are smaller and thin. In case of male, the thoracic legs are closely arranged, while in case of female, the thoracic legs are less closely arranged. In male, the second pair of pleopod, that is the swimmerette, has appendix masculina, while it is absent in case of female. The male genital openings are present on the arthrodial membrane of the coxa of last pair of walking legs, that is the fifth pair, while the female genital openings or apertures are present on the coxa of the third pair of walking legs. Fine. So another point is the male prawns are usually larger when compared to the female prawn of the same age. So with this differences between the male and the female, let us learn about their reproductive systems. So this particular slide will give you the diagrammatic representation of male reproductive system of Palaeomon malcolmsoni. Fine. As you have seen here, the male reproductive system consists of a pair of testes, a pair of Vas Differential, and a pair of Vesiculae Seminalis. So before I start with that explanation, I want to just give you an information about the gonads here. The gonads, that is male and female gonads, are similar in position, shape, size, and general disposition in both the sexes. They lie in the posterior region of the thorax, dorsally above the hepatopancreas and below the pericardium, and they extend anteriorly up to the renal sac and posteriorly up to the first abdominal segment. So now let us learn about each of this organ one by one. The first being the testis. I just told you the male reproductive system consists of a pair of testes, a pair of Vasa differentia, and a pair of Vesiculae Seminalis. Right? The diagram also you have seen. Now about testes, let me give a brief up. These are a paired, soft, white and elongated bodies fused anteriorly to form a common lobe. They enclose a gap in the middle for the passage of the cardiopyloric strand. This is connecting the heart to the cardiac stomach. And each testis consists of large number of thin coiled seminiferous tubules embedded in the connective tissue. The cavity of each tubule is lined by a single layer of epithelium, the cells of which undergo spermatogenesis to form the spermatozoa. A mature sperm consists of a rounded head containing a large crescentic nucleus, that is half moon shaped, and a tail-like blunt process. Next is the Vas differentia. Is a long coiled narrow tube arising from the posterior end of each testis. After emerging out, the Vas differentia of each side forms a much coiled mass and then runs vertically downwards between the abdominal flexor muscles on the inner side and the thoracic wall on the outer side. Fine. So next region is the Vesiculae Seminalis. So on reaching ventrally, near the basis of the fifth pair of walking legs, each Vas Differential swells into a club-shaped vesicula seminalis, into which the spermatozoans are stored. Each vesicula seminalis opens to the exterior by male genital aperture on the inner side at the base of the coxa of the fifth walking legs of its side. And each of these genital aperture is covered over by a small flap of integument, a skin-like structure. Next, learn about the female reproductive system of Palaeomon, which consists of a pair of ovaries, which are clearly seen. Very nice diagram is depicted here in this particular slide, and a pair of oviducts, and its explanation goes like this. About ovaries, you can explain. Ovaries are paired, white, compact and sickle-shaped bodies touching each other at both the ends, but leaving a gap in the middle for the passage of the cardiopyloric strand, which connects the heart with the pyloric stomach. They lie in the posterior region of the thorax, dorsally above the hepatopancreas and below the pericardium. Each ovary is enclosed within a membranous capsule, within which there are a number of radial rows of ova, that is eggs, found in different developmental stages. Usually, the immature ova are found at the center, while the mature ones are found towards the surface of the ovary. The mature ova are large-sized nucleated cells with lots of yolky material. Now let's learn about oviducts. So these are short, slender, curved tubes with wide proximal ends arising from the middle border of each ovary, runs vertically downwards and opens by a female genital aperture. So the female genital openings you can explain if anybody asks for a question. One mark question, you can say the two oviducts open to the exterior by the female genital openings located on the inner side of coxa of third walking leg of its side. The word coxa is missing in this PPT. It's okay. Anyway, the notes I've given you the information. You can go through it later. Fine, girls. So next, let us know about the way they reproduce fully, that is copulation. So during copulation, the male deposits the spermatophores near the female genital openings where the ova are present attached to the pleopods. And here the fertilization is external, that is it takes place outside the body of the parent organisms, especially in the water here because they are all aquatic in nature. And these prawns usually breed during the rainy season, as everybody knows about it, and the eggs are round and yolk filled, which already we have discussed. The fertilization is external, I said, and the fertilized eggs are carried in the abdominal basket formed by the appendix internae of the second to fifth pleopods in females. I told you when I explained about the abdominal appendages, that is the pleopods or swimmerets, about the term appendix internae and its function. In case of Palaeomon species, here in this particular species, the development is direct, that is the larval stages are absent. So between the egg and the adult there are no larval stages in the life cycle. So direct development take place where the eggs hatch and small prawns emerge out of it, which undergo many moltings. Molts means ecdysis. I told you yesterday. Ecdysis is nothing but the process of phenomena by means of which the organism try to shed off this integument of skin in order to grow further. So the newly hatched young resembling the adult, almost miniature adult you can say, it leave the abdominal basket to lead a free life. In fact, the female shows parental care here. The female try to bend down its abdomen to protect the eggs and also the young ones. Fine. The lifespan of Polymon is about 3 to 5 years, they have mentioned. And there is one more species of prawn which is called as Phineas. Phineas is a marine prawn, and in this marine prawn the development is indirect. Fine. So there are 4 important larval forms during the development of prawn, that is called Nauplius, Metanauplius, Zoea, Protozoa, then Mysis, etc. So there the development is indirect, but here in case of Palaeomon, which is the Indian freshwater prawn, the development is direct. Fine. So this is all you have to write if they ask a question on the reproductive system of Palaeomon. They may separately ask about either the male reproductive system or the female reproductive system for 5 marks each. So you should be in a position to draw a neat label diagram of the systems and explain in brief about the same which I just described to you. Fine. So with this I will stop my lecture on this reproduction and development in case of Palaeomon. Thank you.